Thank you so much for all of you who are here, because you will learn the secrets about indefinite lifespans here with my dear co-author from the United Kingdom, David Wood. He also studied in Cambridge, UK. I studied in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And 4 years ago, we decided to write a book together. And you can see it, the original edition in Spanish, La Muerte de la Muerte, and it has been a major success, not just in Spain, where it was #1 best-selling book for a long time, but also it has come out in Portuguese, in French. I don't know if you can recognize these languages. And then it came out this week in Chinese. The government of China is publishing our book, so we are very excited. And it's coming in 5 more languages next year. It's an international bestseller talking about the death of death. And we have the prologue by the leader of this movement worldwide, who is Aubrey de Grey, that will be with us here online. And we talk about many experiences, including some cases like Liz Parrish, that we call patient zero in terms of the gene therapies, including telomerase, for example. And she will talk about that briefly. And with David and myself, we are taking this crusade throughout the planet, in the English-speaking world, in the Spanish-speaking world, and in other languages throughout the planet. So we are really excited, also because we are now in Madrid, and we are pushing for this idea in Madrid. This coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have an incredible event. All of you are welcome to the Madrid College of Physicians, the most illustrious medical institution in Spain, with 42,000 members, where we are going to sign a declaration about aging and rejuvenation technologies, because this is becoming a hot issue throughout the planet. As you probably know, Jeff Bezos has decided to invest billions and billions of dollars, and he has actually hijacked 2 Spanish scientists to join his team. And so we are really excited, because Spain is a world-leading nation on longevity and rejuvenation technologies. So this is my introduction to welcome you to the future of longevity here in the South Summit, and over the weekend, a transmission at the College of Physicians of Spain. Now, I have a few questions for my colleagues. I have my dear great friend, Aubrey de Grey. I love you, Aubrey. And, oh, my dear, I love her more. Liz Parrish. So we have a fantastic team here, and I have a few questions that I just want to begin with. And let's go in the order. Aubrey, because he is the older, in terms not of age, but experience. Then Liz Parrish, because she is the youngest, and you can see how young she looks, and she will tell us how she became even younger than she already is. And we will finish with my co-author. So first question, dear Aubrey, because you have been on this campaign for almost 3 decades, how do you see it has changed through time? How it was 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, today, and 10 years in the future, and 20 years in the future? Please.
Wow. Okay. So 30 years ago, we were when the study of the biology of aging was really purely descriptive. That changed 28 years ago when Cynthia Kenyon published the discovery that one could double the lifespan of nematode worms by mutating just 1 gene. She was not actually the first person to do this, but she certainly got this to be something that the field would pay attention to. And it made an enormous difference. It brought a lot of really talented young scientists into the field. Then 20 years ago, or to be more precise, 21 years ago, the idea of rejuvenation came along. I was able to see how we might be able to get the repair of the damage of aging to happen more easily than the previous paradigm of trying to slow down the rate at which that damage is created. Then 10 years ago, we had reached the point where that paradigm, the rejuvenation paradigm, had been broadly accepted. And very shortly after that, 8 years ago, 5 very prominent European gerontologists, including 2 Spanish ones, wrote a very important paper that was extremely influential in ensuring that everybody understood that rejuvenation is the way to go. We are now in a position where some of the easier parts of rejuvenation are reaching the clinic in clinical trials. And that means that we are on the cusp of actually bringing this about. The more difficult components of the rejuvenation plan are still a few years away from that point, but only a few years. And progress is greatly accelerating thanks to, among others, as you mentioned, Jeff Bezos. 10 years from now, I think the world will be very, very different in the wider world because there will be a widespread acceptance that rejuvenation, comprehensive rejuvenation, is on its way, even if it has not reached the general public quite yet. 20 years from now, I think we will probably have reached longevity escape velocity.
Beautiful. Aubrey, that is very inspiring. And so let's turn to Liz. Liz, tell us what you have been doing and what is your look throughout time?
Well, my journey started in 2013 when my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and I started looking for cures for kids, and I actually found Aubrey, which was very fortuitous for me. I learned about the aging research and the impact on both an aging population and on children. By moving this type of technology forward, it can actually benefit childhood disease. So in 2015, I started BioViva by taking gene therapies to combat biological aging and became the first person in the world to do that. That then catalyzed our company into working on these gene therapies. And now we are working fast towards combinatorial gene therapies with new delivery methods. We also are an advocate of patient data, and we'll be coming out with our first paper of what happens when you give regenerative gene therapies to dementia patients just in a matter of weeks.
And what does it mean that you are patient zero? Can you tell us a bit more about that? Everybody is excited about the risks that you are taking on your own life.
Sure. So patient zero means that I'm the very first patient to take regenerative gene therapies, especially in the telomerase reverse transcriptase space. So I took a gene therapy in which elongates the ends of the chromosomes called the telomeres that shorten as we age. And that shortening is associated with a myriad of aging-associated diseases and childhood diseases as well. This was a technology that had sat in research for quite a long time, and I felt that the most important step that I could make was to get it into the first human body. So it means that I was a first in use for a therapeutic in this case.
Fantastic. And David, tell us about longevity throughout the last 20 years and the next 20 years.
I think the biggest change is that people are going to switch from thinking of aging and death as something for philosophy, something for poetry, something for religion, something we have to get used to, something we have to tell each other, hey, aging isn't so bad really, to recognizing that aging is an engineering problem with an engineering solution. It's a radical idea. But more and more people can see some evidence that that really is the case. Aubrey has already mentioned the work of Cynthia Kenyon. At that stage, it was widely thought it would be impossible to make a few small changes and significantly extend the lifespan of any creatures. That was the prevailing dogma. People would say then, it's completely impossible to significantly extend lifespan. That dogma's all gone. Very few people hold to it anymore. There is so much evidence that parts of biology can be reprogrammed in various ways, removing the damage that has accumulated and becoming young again. After all, let's think about the miracle of childbirth. Quite an old body gives birth to a completely young, fresh body with completely reset telomeres. That's one thing nature can do, and there's many more examples of that. And more of it's coming under engineering knowledge. Not just in a few startups. Another big change is that some of the largest, most powerful, most capable companies in the world are now addressing this field. Not just by personal investment by the founders, but Alphabet, Google, put a huge amount of money into Calico. Microsoft has invested a lot in this. And Chinese tech companies too, let's not forget them. Companies like Tencent or Alibaba, their founding team have spoken about transforming aging as well. And it's taking a while, but I have to say from my own experience in technology, many of these big transformations do take a long time. There's a lot of disappointment before there's the breakthrough. I speak from personal experience. I worked for many years in what became the smartphone industry. I worked with small handheld personal computers for a long time, and we were so happy that 1 million of these devices were sold. And we began speculating, maybe in the future, a few more people may have something which we dared to call smartphones, or later, just one word, smartphones. And it took a long time, I have to tell you. Most of the original experiments failed. Most of the first products were not successful. But eventually, especially when some of the largest companies in the world, Apple and Google, became involved, so much changed. And it's going to be the same with the rejuvenation therapy. So I think by 2040, there's at least a 50% chance that enough of these powerful companies, coupled with enterprising startups like Liz Parrish's BioViva and like the ones funded by Aubrey de Grey-Sens, together they will have delivered enough. That there'll be a huge change in public attitude. No longer will we say, hey, cheer up, you're growing old, but that's nice. We'll all say, come on, let's get young again. Let's have real life. Let's conquer death. It's within our grasp, and more people are going to wake up and say, let's do it.
Well, that's a beautiful way to see the future. And let's talk about another thing that there is a lot of discussion and controversy about, which is the definition of aging itself. I am in the field that aging should be considered as a disease. Many scientists are actually in favor of that. Like my colleague also from MIT, who is now at Harvard, David Sinclair. He's a biologist who got his degrees at MIT and now he's at Harvard. He thinks we should declare aging as a disease. I am in this campaign to declare Madrid or another city in Spain as the first city in the world where aging is considered a disease. But there are different points of view, and the first one is by my admired mentor, Aubrey de Grey. So Aubrey, I know we don't agree on this one, but tell us your view about aging as a disease.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly say that we disagree. The difficulty that we have to face when we try to describe anything is the baggage that is around it, the preconceptions that are associated with particular terminology. So we have seen this in the academic field of the study of aging, where not long ago, somebody just invented a whole new word, geroscience, which has become extremely popular among academics in this field simply because it's a new word. It has no baggage. And people can make it mean what they want it to mean rather than having people assume what it means, the way we talk, say, when we talk about aging or gerontology and so on. So for me, of course, aging is a medical problem. It is something that I believe we can alleviate with medicine. And that is how I like to describe it. Calling it a disease gives the mistaken impression that we can cure it in the same way that we can cure an infection. Calling it not a disease gives the mistaken impression, that we can't do anything about it with medicine. I think it's quite important to try to avoid getting in those traps. But of course, aging is a medical problem.
Okay, Liz, what is your take on aging as a disease?
I believe that aging is a disease. It's a distinct pathology as defined by pathologies. It's a progress that happens in all people at different rates. Luckily, some people age more slowly than others. I do believe that it's curable at its core by treating the hallmarks of aging, the 9 to 10 different cellular aspects that are happening at the cellular level. And I've been a proponent of that since 2013, which caused some issues back then to speak that way. But if we treat it as a disease, as it is, then it can get the proper funding and the proper educational programs behind it.
Beautiful, thank you. And my British co-author, what is your take on it?
Let me give a brief comparison from 1900 to today. What was it that killed most people in 1900 in the so-called developed world? It was influenza and pneumonia and tuberculosis and gastroenteritis, diseases of the digestion system that caused diarrhea. And people thought there's nothing you could do about these diseases. And they're all different and they're all strange, and maybe you could pray and maybe you could try to live well so that the gods would be favorable towards you. But then people realized all of these infectious diseases have a common cause: germs. And there's different kinds of germs. There's viruses and bacteria. But because of progress with science, progress with microscopes, progress with manipulating chemicals, there was one big idea, which was that by tackling germs, by being hygienic and introducing things like antibiotics and vaccinations, we could at one stroke have a method to solve all these infectious diseases. And these diseases I mentioned still do kill too many people, especially in some parts of the world, but they're nothing like the curse they were in the past. It's the same today with the diseases that most people die of today: heart failure, cancer, dementia, stroke, diabetes, and immunosenescence, the failures of the immune system. All of these have a common cause. It's aging at the biological level. And with new tools, we can tackle it as never before. So rather than saying aging is a disease, I would say aging is the new prism, the new way of looking at things that suddenly makes sense of disease and suddenly opens up way for us to comprehensively cure cancers and these other diseases. After all, we sometimes say to people, you'd better stop smoking because smoking significantly increases the risk of you getting lung cancer. I'll tell you something that causes a much bigger growth in the possibility of lung cancer. It is the aging that happens in our bodies as we change from 40 to 80. Can we address that? That is the vision that the people on this panel collectively share, that we can address that damage. And if we do so, we will at a single step transform the dangers that all these chronic diseases cause. And that's where I would put my emphasis.
Beautiful, David. And I have one final question, which is why, regardless of what we think about aging as a medical condition, disease, or whatever, why do you want to stop it? Aubrey, why do you want to reverse aging? Why are you behind this beautiful goal, which I personally believe is the most noble thing anyone can do? Because 90% of the Spanish people die of age-related diseases. And in all the developed world, you add malaria, terrorism, religion fights, accidents, AIDS, anything, it's only 10% of the deaths. 90% are related to aging. So, Aubrey, to you first, why do you want to stop and reverse aging?
Honestly, the real answer is I don't know. I don't know why I want that. It's just that I do. When I was 9 years old, I had a big fight with my mother, who was trying to get me to spend a lot of time practicing the piano. And I didn't want to do that. And I realized that the reason I didn't want to do it was because the best thing that could possibly happen as a result of doing it would be that I would become a good pianist. And I just wasn't satisfied with that because there are already lots of good pianists. So I wouldn't be making much of a difference to the world. That was where I began to realize that what I wanted to do with my life was to improve the quality of people's lives. And I ended up in this field where I am trying to improve as a side effect the quantity of people's lives. It's just that for whatever reason, I am the kind of person who wants to make a difference to the world, as big a difference as possible.
Beautiful. Thank you, Aubrey. How about you, Liz?
I'm happy to hear that from Aubrey. Well, aging-related non-communicable diseases are now the biggest killer on the planet, as David Wood mentioned. And I mean, this is my passion to make a better world. So, this is the choice that I have made. And by doing this, by creating curative therapies for aging-related disease, we can actually get a lot of children healthy so that they can also see all of the similar lifespan that you have seen and then more. And so I'm just very committed to ultimate health for the world and a better world for the future.
Beautiful, Liz. And we know you are fighting hard, just like Aubrey and my dear co-author, David.
I'm a believer in human potential. I want humans everywhere to be able to live more fully, to have deeper and more profound experiences. And I want to get rid of all the limitations that are preventing us from living that potential. And there's all kinds of things that are holding us back, like ignorance and confusion and problems in our social structures and lots of other things too. But something that undoubtedly does restrict potential is the fact that our bodies grow weak and feeble. And things that we once were able to do, we can no longer do. And we forget things. It's extremely sad when we see friends and relatives who can't remember things because of dementia in their brain. It's a great restriction on human freedoms when people can no longer get up and move around, when their hands are frail, when they can't play their favorite games anymore because their bodies are riddled by these diseases of aging. So because I'm such a fan of the great human potential, I want to get rid of aging as that drawback, as one of the limitations which prevent us from being humanity plus. So let's say it, humanity 2.0, a vision that is within our grasp.
Well, I'm so excited about the future because I like to say we are between the last mortal human generation and the first immortal human generation. And my question is, where do you want to be? And this is free. This is democratic. If some people want to die, please go ahead. But I think most people will be intelligent enough to know that it is beautiful to be young, to be healthy, to be smarter, and to travel even to outer space. My dream is to go to other planets and see and learn other things. So if you want to learn more about this, I invite you for 3 days at the College of Physicians of Madrid, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, October 8, 9, and 10, when you will be able to listen 4 hours to David, to Aubrey, and to Liz Parrish talking about longevity, radical life extension, and the fantastic future ahead. I want to finish with this positive message that the beautiful is going to be, the future is going to be more beautiful and better than it is today. So let me welcome you all to the age of immortality. Or if you don't like immortality, immortality, or radical life extension. Our objective is to live indefinitely young, not indefinitely old. No one wants that, indefinitely young. So thank you so much. A pleasure for Liz and Aubrey, our mentors, and my co-author, David.
Thank you for having me.